A Plaguelands Media production.
Hey everyone, this is Hugh from Plaguelands Media bringing you an RPG book review today, so cheers for that. Now, there have been a few iterations of role-playing games based on the Marvel comic book IP. There was like Marvel Superheroes back in the day. I think there was like a Marvel Universe role-playing game, which I did have. DC also had a great RPG set out based on, I believe it was Mutants and Masterminds rules, but that's not what I'm talking about today. Now, the latest iteration is the Marvel Multiverse role-playing game. This is the core rulebook. As you can see, the cover art is absolutely phenomenal. We have some great pictures on the back there as well. Not going to talk about this. I will in another video. Then we got the Cataclysm of Kang adventure. This is a really cool kind of campaign. I was lucky enough to pick this up at my friend's board game and comic book cafe, DCC, and he very kindly gave me a Miles Morales character sheet. It's kind of like a little bonus thing. Not going to talk about that today either. Today I'm going to talk about the first expansion book that has been released for this game, and that is the X-Men expansion. Why am I talking about this? Because back in the day, X-Men was my favorite comic. Uncanny X-Men, X-Men, X-Force, X-Factor. Absolutely loved it. I got into X-Men around the time when you had all of the fantastically epic stories like the Mutant Massacre, the Legacy Virus one with Strife. I cannot remember it off the top of my head. Leading into Fatal Attractions, where Wolverine gets the adamantium ripped out of his body. Leading into Onslaught, the Age of Apocalypse. All of these epic storylines. Operation Zero Tolerance with Bastion. The modern era of X-Men, not really that huge of a fan of. I kind of stopped following the X-Men a long time ago. So I was excited when they announced the first expansion was going to be X-Men. It arrived last week. I've had a chance to go through it, not in great depth or detail, but enough to know that this is one of the best expansion books for any role-playing game system that is currently in my collection. And I am not saying that lightly. This is an absolutely fantastic expansion for anyone that wants to get into the Marvel Multiverse role-playing game with a focus on the mutants. Now, that doesn't mean there aren't mutants in the core rulebook. There are. This just expands upon that in so many awesome ways that it really is limitless to how you want your group to kind of be a part of the kind of X-Men world. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do not a deep dive, but just a skim through and talk about some of the features. And then you can make up your own mind as to whether or not you want to purchase the book, or if it's going to be a miss for you, or if you're interested in the system, or if you're not interested in the system. Okay, let's get into the next episode, kind of.
Read a fucking book. Read a fucking book. Read a fucking book. People.
Okay, now, for those of you that don't know, the Marvel Multiverse role-playing game uses what is called the 6-1-6 system. It's basically using 6-sided dice, 3 of them, plus any modifiers that you have in order to get above a target number. It's called the 6-1-6 system because the main Marvel continuity is on Earth 616. And you always have one dice that is a little bit different And if that dice rolls a 1, then it's counted as a 6. So that's the kind of gimmick they have. This is the official Marvel Multiverse dice set. Always like to get the dice that they make for the game. Okay, let's get in to the X-Men expansion. Good paper stock here. There's your table of contents. A little bit of an introduction about how to use the book, of course. A little bit of history of the X-Men. And then we get into an explanation of what mutants are. Okay, history, the first mutants, modern times, the X-Men. Okay, the Phoenix Force returns. Now, what I really love about this is when it talks about a storyline, for example, the Phoenix Force returns, and then it gives you the Phoenix 5. So this was from the Avengers versus X-Men storyline, and these were the 5 mutants who got the power of the Phoenix Force. You had Colossus, Cyclops, Emma Frost, Magic, and Namor the Submariner. Yes, Namor is a mutant, for anyone that kind of didn't know. You're going to see this a lot. You had the Avengers Squad, the founding of Krakoa. That's like the modern era of X-Men. So you got the Quiet Council, a map of Krakoa. Then you've got the rise of Arakko. I believe that's like the mutants are living on Mars now or something. The fall of Krakoa. And then different locations, opponents, playing mutants. And then we get into the teams. I absolutely love these chapters. So we start with the X-Men. And you see you've got the original X-Men. Here, Angel, Beast, Cyclops, Iceman, and Marvel Girl. Then we go into the all-new X-Men. This was Darwin, Petra, Sway, and Vulcan. They're the X-Men that went in to save the X-Men, and then the new X-Men, and they were all killed, except for Vulcan, I believe. And then we have the new X-Men. This was the kind of giant-size X-Men issue 1 team. I've done a review of that story on the channel, so you can kind of go and have a look at that. Then we have the X-Men Blue and Gold. This was kind of the era that I first started getting into. We have a map of the Blackbird, which is pretty cool. The new and extreme X-Men, Messiah and Utopia, the Schism, and then it just shows you who is on the team. So if you want to play in that era, then you kind of know, but it gives you the whole history of all of the different iterations of the X-Men team. And yes, I know I've said iterations like 4 times now. Get over it. Different locations, different opponents the X-Men fight. Magneto, the Hellfire Club, Senator Robert Kelly, the Sentinels, Mr. Sinister, my favorite villain of all time, and Orcus, that's the kind of new group, and how to play as an X-Man, how to join the X-Men, what you have to do, and then some adventure hooks that your narrator can use to kind of get the game going. Now this set out is the same for all the teams. So we have X Factor. That tells you who the original X Factor people are. A map of the Boneyard. Mutant Town. And then the same thing, what opponents they faced, how to play in them, how to join them, and hook ideas. We have the same for X-Force. Fantastic art, and I love that all the art has who the artist was, so you know that it's not kind of AI generated. Then you have mutant classes. So these are like the New Mutants, Hellions, Exterminators, Generation X, the Omega Gang. So this is if you want to play as like the kids at the school. Then you have maps of Xavier's school, different opponents, things like that. The Marauders. So the Marauders used to be Mr. Sinister villains, but in the Krakoan era, it kind of changed. All mutants got an amnesty if they wanted to come and live on Krakoa. Krakoa, of course, being a mutant island. That's kind of their base, or that was their base until Orcus kind of showed up. Then we have Alpha Flight, the Canadian team. Love Puck, great character. And again, we get different locations, how to play them, all that kind of good stuff. The Exiles. Now, Exiles is a comic that I never got into, but always sounded really freaking cool. They were a mutant team that would, hop through dimensions. So their members usually came from different dimensions, and it gives you which Earth they came from. So you had Blink from Earth 295, Magnus Lencher from Earth 27, Mimic from Earth 12, More from Earth 1081, and all of this is really, really cool. So it's something that I want to look into, like picking up and reading, if I can find a good omnibus edition of it. Then we get the other worlds. One of the great things about the X-Men is, Marvel Multiverse, I should say. In general, the Marvel Multiverse is there are so many different versions that it's just really cool. So we've got the Age of Apocalypse, Earth 295. This was when Legion, Charles Xavier's son, went back in time to kill Magneto in hopes of helping Charles kind of get his dream of kind of mutant reconciliation going. But he ended up inadvertently killing Charles Xavier, which meant Apocalypse became the ruler of Earth. So you got all different types of mutants, like different versions of them, like Cyclops was one of the Horsemen of the Apocalypse and all this kind of shit, which is really cool. Mutant X, House of M. This is when Scarlet Witch said that infamous line, "No more mutants," and all but, I believe, 196 mutants became depowered. Age of X, the Ultimate X-Men. It was kind of cool, a little weird. There were some odd character choices there, like making Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch an incestuous brother and sister couple and things like that, but it was fun. I enjoyed it. X-Men Noir was freaking awesome. If you ever get a chance to read X-Men Noir, I cannot recommend that enough. It is a fantastic book. Mojo World. Mojo, for those of you that don't know, intergalactic television producer. Really cool. Really fun. Recently was in an episode of the new X-Men 97, which I thought was an absolutely brilliant animated continuation of X-Men the Animated Series. It was just so fucking cool. Again, the art, that's Mojo there. The art is just phenomenal. And then how to play in other worlds. Futures Past. Here we go. X-Men 2099. I never really read X-Men 2099. I did read Ravage 2099 and Spider-Man 2099. But at the time, X-Men 2099 did not appeal to me at all. Although I will tell you this sneaky secret, I do have the X-Men 2099 Omnibus currently sitting in my Amazon cart. So we might see that in the future. The Days of Future Past, one of the all-time top 5 X-Men stories. Absolutely brilliant. Adapted into a film, which I thoroughly enjoyed. I know a lot of people didn't like it, and that's fine. It strayed a little too far from the source material, but it was still really, really cool. Days of Future Past, Dark Phoenix Saga. These are books or storylines that you really are doing yourself a disservice if you are a fan of the X-Men and you haven't read them yet. Even if you know the story itself, the art is phenomenal. The writing is phenomenal, and there are a lot of nuances that go a little bit deeper than just, oh, this is what the story was about. So if you're a fan of that, please go and read them. I believe this is X-Men 2099. Then you got Cable's future. Cable, of course, being Nathan Dayspring Summers, son of Cyclops, and Madeline Pryor, who I believe was a clone of Jean Grey, or came along, and Jean Grey was believed to be dead after the Dark Phoenix saga, but she was in a cocoon in Central Park. Bishop's future. Bishop, probably my all-time favorite X-Men character. I know, I mean, everyone loves Wolverine, of course. Wolverine's cool. Everyone loves Gambit, of course. Gambit's cool. There are so many characters to choose from. Cannonball's pretty wicked as well, but Bishop is probably my favorite. I love his power set. I love his attitude. I love his portrayal in the animated series. And I believe we even saw him for a little bit in the Days of Future Past film, which I appreciated. Old Man Logan just did a deep dive into that story. That was cool. That's the map from Old Man Logan. There he is with Hawkeye. And we see a bunch of dead superheroes with Mjolnir. And then we get restarting the timeline. Now, for those of you that don't know, Moira McTaggart has recently, well, I say recently, it's probably been 5 years or so. I really haven't kept up. But Moira McTaggart used to be a geneticist. She worked on Muir Island, good friend and possible love interest of Charles Xavier, also Banshee, Sean Cassidy. But her mutant ability is when she dies, she's born again with all of her knowledge. So whatever happens, she dies, and then she's born on her original date of birth, so back in time, and she can then change the timeline to fit how she wants it to go. So you can see, very confusing, and I mean, it's an interesting power to play with, but I don't know how I feel about that, to tell you the truth. And then we have how to play in other times. Oh, Mr. Sinister. You magnificent bastard. My favorite villain of all time. Okay, then we get some new rules. These are cool. We get some team maneuvers. So if you're a member of Alpha Flight, you can use this team maneuver. The Exiles, the Marauders, all this kind of stuff. I like that. That's kind of mad. And it forces you to kind of work together. Forces you to have a team dynamic in the game, which is always appreciated for something along these lines. Then we have Mutant Reputation. We have this school advancement track. So very much like the Strixhaven setting for Dungeons & Dragons, you can actually play as mutant kids in Xavier's school, and as you go through training and learn things and go on missions or use the danger room, then you can actually get ability points or powers and level your character up. I think that's really, really fun. And this is a really good way for, say, parents who want to get their kids into something like this. You can make this a very kid-friendly game and just have them enjoy themselves being a mutant at Xavier School for Gifted Youngsters. New equipment, we've got adamantium, anti-telepathy helmet, the bow staff, Cerebro. New vehicles, we have the Blackbird, Eva, and the Marauder ship. Different conditions, how to do mental duels. They've streamlined the rules for having two psychics battle now, which is kind of cool. We've got rules for the Danger Room, because what X-Men role-playing game would it be without the freaking Danger Room? Mutant growth hormone, anti-mutant cures, infections and possessions. This is cool because you can be infected by the Brood. The Brood are like an alien race that implant eggs in people. You can become a Horseman of the Apocalypse. Mr. Sinister can change you. He did to Gambit. And you can be possessed by the Phoenix Force or get the transmode virus from the Phalanx. If you don't know what any of these things are, just go and watch the animated series. It'll all make sense. We got some new origins you can use for your characters. New tags, new powers. New powers that fit into existing power sets as well, which I really appreciated. Descriptions of those powers, which is always kind of cool. There's a lot of them, actually. Narrative powers. These are good. These are things like cannot lose. So if one of the characters is killed in battle, in the Krakoan era, there are 5 mutants who can actually resurrect any mutant with their memories. So effectively, mutants can't die in the Krakoan era, which to me is fucking stupid, but you can kind of have that. DNA manipulation, duplicate self, like Multiple Man can do. And then you got random encounters. And then we come to Chapter 13. This is the one that everyone is waiting for, the new X-Men characters. Now, as I go through these, you'll notice that some of the big ones are missing. There's no Cyclops, there's no Colossus, things like that. The reason being, those characters appeared in the core rulebook, and you need the core rulebook to play the game, so naturally they're not going to waste paper doubling up. Again, something I appreciate very, very much. So it just gives you the character sheet with their biography, history, personality, traits and tags, their powers, and their abilities. So we have Angel, Aphelion, don't know who that is. Got Apocalypse. Also gives you their rank as well. Ascani, Aurora, Banshee, Beak, Bishop, oh yeah. Black Priestess, Black Tom Cassidy, Blink from Earth 295, Blob, The Brood, Cable, Callisto, Cannonball, Captain Britain. Now, I didn't know that the new Captain Britain was Psylocke, Betsy Braddock. That was kind of interesting. Cassandra Nova. Those of you that have seen a certain buddy Marvel film recently will know who she is. Chamber, Cypher, Darwin, Dazzler, another favorite of mine. I thought Dazzler doesn't get enough, well, I think I should say, Dazzler doesn't get enough love in the comics, and I would very much like to read the Dazzler miniseries that came out in the, I believe, late 80s. Destiny, Domino, Dupe, Dust, Elixir, Escapade, Exodus, Fang, Phantom X, good old Gambit, Grey Crow, Guardian, Havoc, Hope Summers, Iska the Unbeaten. Her mutant ability is she can never lose a fight. That's kind of interesting. Jubilee, Karma, Kid Omega, Lady Deathstrike, Lockheed the Dragon, Longshot, M, Madeline Pryor, Magic, Magma, Master of the World, Mastermind, Mr. Sinister, awesome, Moira McTaggart, Mojo, Multiple Man, Nemesis, Nimrod, Nocturne, Northstar, Old Man Logan, Polaris, Puck, awesome, Purifier, Pyro, Richter, Rogue, Sasquatch, Sebastian Shaw, Sentinel, Shadow King, Shaman, Shadowstar, Silver Samurai, Siren, Snowbird, the Stepford Cuckoos, Sunfire, Cinch, Talisman, Toad, Warlock, Warpath, Wildchild, Wolfsbane, and then you got the index. And that is a ton of new X-Men characters that come in this expansion. Now you can run a game as any of those characters, or you can use the Marvel Multiverse 616 rules to create your own mutant or superhero or whatever. All in all, I am so happy with this expansion. I think it's a phenomenal addition to the Multiverse role-playing game, and I cannot wait to see what expansions or even campaigns come out in the future. Now, if you enjoyed the video, of course, like, subscribe, leave a comment. If you want me to go through and do a bit of a deeper dive into the Multiverse role-playing game rules, I'm more than happy to give that a go, although there are already a ton of videos out there showcasing them. So I recommend going and checking those out. These books are of absolute phenomenal quality, not only in the rules, the art, but like the books themselves are incredibly good quality role-playing books. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please, everyone, have a fantastic rest of your day. Stay safe, but most importantly, go and play a role-playing game or watch an X-Men movie or watch an X-Men animated TV series or read an X-Men comic, people.